got it? All right, your homework, let's go ahead and let's get that out. I was on the wrong page, I'm sorry about that. All right, your homework was to read pages 105 through 108, and on page 109, questions 1 through 4. So let's go over those first. All right, number 1, name the 4 basic types of tissue. So, epithelial, so it looks a little bit weird, the epithelial is how you pronounce that one. Muscle, connective, and nerves. Those are the 4 types of tissue. Number 2, what type of tissue provides protective barriers for the body? That's the epithelial. We'll talk about more about what that one is a little bit later on. Number 3, what type of tissue has the ability to conduct impulses? We've been talking about this with nerves, so hopefully remember, okay, this must be nerve tissue, and that's the answer to number 3. Number 4, what is the smallest part of the body that is said to be alive? This is from way back from the beginning of the chapter as well. So, the cell. Hopefully, all of you did really well on that. All right. So, you want to make sure that you're studying the pages for today. It's Friday. Most of you hopefully remember what that means. So, pay attention to what you're doing. To help you focus with your classwork, on page 102 through 103, I wanted you to copy down those bold terms and definitions 3 times. But focus review back on 96 and 97, because remember that's over the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, those 2 parts of your nervous system. You copied down those bold terms and definitions yesterday. So go back, look over them. You want to give yourself probably about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but make sure you're focusing on page 102 and 103, since that's the new material, but then also go back and read pages 96 and 97. Now remember, you have a whole bunch of pages of just illustrations in the middle. You don't have to know those. So the main pages are 96 and 97, and then page 102, 103. So it's not that many pages actually, so make sure that you are studying. You probably want to give yourself about 10 minutes. Maybe 12, 13, 14, but don't stay away too long before you come back. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. So I'm going to go all the way back to page 96, since that's what you need to know. So I'm going to review over these sections first. So hopefully as you were doing your class, if you were reviewing these and going over these as well. All right, what is the purpose of your what is the purpose of your nervous system? All right, to coordinate and control the activities of your body. There are 2 parts of your nervous system. What are they? Central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. What are the 2 parts of your central nervous system? Remember, that's the part down the center of your body. Your brain and spinal cord. What's everything else of your peripheral nervous system? Your nerves. Good job. What do you call those electrical impulses that are transmitted along the nerves? What do you call those electrical messages? Impulses. Good. What do you call the bundle of fibers that transmit the impulses? Nerves. So be sure to know what they are, that there are these nerve fibers that transmit impulses, as well as they are parts of the peripheral nervous system. So nerves and the nerve tissue make up the peripheral nervous system. And then there's also nerves in your spinal cord, but we think of them more the nerve tissue in your arms and stuff. That's what most people refer to whenever they're saying nerves. All right, what is the major organ of the nervous system? Your brain. That's the most important, or the chief organ for it. There are 2 halves to your brain. What do we call those 2 halves? Hemispheres. Perfect. All right, there are 3 parts to your brain. What do you call that top part that's responsible for you? Conscious thought and memory. Conscious thought and reason is how your book puts it. Cerebrum. What do you call the portion that's a little bit farther down? This one does skeletal muscle memory and balance. So you don't have to think about walking, you can just do it. Cerebellum. What do you call the part of the brain that controls the automatic activities, like blinking and swallowing? Brainstem. Perfect. Which part connects the brain to the spinal cord? Brainstem again. Good. All right, what part of your central nervous system is responsible for reflexes? The spinal cord. Perfect. Okay, so we talked about yesterday how there's 2 different types of nerve fibers. One of them gathers information about the world around you and sends that information to your brain. What do we call that type of nerve fiber? Sensory nerve fiber. Good job. What do you call the other one then? It's where your brain is telling your muscles how to move. Motor nerve fiber. So you can think of it as going to the muscle. It starts with an M. So motor nerve fiber starts with an M as well. All right, what do you call the special nerve endings that detect conditions around you? This could be a whole organ like your eyes or your ears or your nose, or it could be these Sensory, I almost said it, be careful. Nerve endings in your skin that can also sense hot and cold or pressure. Sensory receptors, good. Alright, thinking back about the glands yesterday. Alright, what is the system that is responsible for a lot of internal processes of the body? I'm gonna look to see what's the term from page 79, how they usually describe it without giving it away. Alright, it controls certain internal body functions with those hormones. What do we call that system? The endocrine system. What do you call a structure that secretes a chemical substance? A gland, good job. What do you call the glands of the endocrine system? Because they release it directly on the inside of your body. Endocrine glands, yes, that's pretty basic. Alright, what is the substance that has the nickname chemical messenger? I told you to mark this specifically yesterday. Known as the chemical messengers. Hormones, good. Alright, there are the 6 glands that you need to know in your, at least for this year in junior high. What gland secretes insulin and glucagon? This helps regulate sugar in your body. The islets of Langerhans, good. It's in your pancreas. Alright, what gland serves as the clock for waking and sleeping? So this is why it'll help you naturally fall asleep at night. Starts with P if that helps you. Pineal, good. What gland is known as the master gland? Pituitary gland. What are some of the things that the master gland or the pituitary gland regulates? It regulates your growth, your reproductive system, and your water balance. Growth is the main one you need to know though. Alright, what is the gland that regulates your metabolism? Thyroid. What's the name for the hormone that it secretes? Thyroxine, perfect. Alright, what's the one that's close to it? It helps regulate calcium. Parathyroid, good job. What are the glands that are responsible for the body's flight or fight response? Either run away or fight off whatever's happening. Adrenal glands. What's the name for the hormone that they produce? What's the other name for the hormone? Good. So adrenaline or epinephrine. So make a note for those two. Alright, what do we call the main organs of the reproductive system? Gonads, perfect. Now, in the males, what gonads do they have? Testes. In the females, what gonads do they have? Ovaries. What do you call the female reproductive cell? This is what the gonads make, or the ovaries make. Eggs, good. What is the reproductive cell that the testes make? Sperm, perfect. Alright, I believe that's everything we've talked about so far. So if you realize now you want a couple more minutes to study, then that's okay. You can go ahead and study really quick, but be sure to come back. Okay, so you want to go ahead and take out a blank piece of paper and just have out a pen so you can write down your answers. So wherever you're sitting, if it's at the kitchen table or in your bedroom or somewhere else, make sure you clear off everything else. Put away your book, put away anything else you have on the table so you have plenty of room to write. So clear off everything besides just that pen and just that blank piece of paper. Again, because how I mentioned previously, you should write your name at the top so that whenever I print off these quizzes, I can tell whose is whose. I can tell by handwriting a lot of times. But just to be safe, just write your name and date at the top. So today is October 2nd. My mom's birthday was yesterday, as a side note. I didn't remember to call her. So, just make a note. So, you want your name and the date at the top. You can just write science quiz. I'll put it in the proper order later on. But you can just write science quiz at the top and then label it 1 through 10. So if you realize you need a little bit of time to get ready, pause the video and then come back and make sure that you don't listen till the quiz part until you're entirely ready. So put all your books away, everything should be cleared off so you have plenty of room to write. Have a pen and a pencil, but pause the video if you're not ready to take it yet. And then come back and watch it later. Alright, well I'm assuming if you're staying here that you are ready. So, number 1, thinking back over it. Alright, so number 1, what is the chief organ of your nervous system? What is the chief organ or the main organ of your central nervous system? Or your nervous system, sorry. It's also the chief organ of your central nervous system, but what's the chief organ of your nervous system? Number 2, what do you call those electrical messages that nerves transmit? What do you call those electrical messages that nerves transmit? Number 3, what part of your brain is responsible for balance and skeletal muscle control? So once you learned how to walk or how to swim, you don't have to think about it anymore. What part of your brain is responsible for balance and skeletal muscle control or coordination? So what part of your brain is responsible for balance and skeletal muscle coordination? That's a better way to put that. Alright, number 4, what part of your brain connects your brain to the spinal cord? What part of your brain connects the brain to the spinal cord? Number 5, what part of your nervous system is responsible for reflexes? So what part of the nervous system is responsible for reflexes, causing you to jerk away? Alright, number 6, what is the name for the process that does the long-term effects on the inside of your body? So what is the name for the system that controls certain limited body functions or does the long-term changes? It uses hormones and glands. So what's the name for that system? Alright, number 7, 8, 9, and 10. So the last 4 questions are multiple choice. So you want to listen to the entire question and then the entire multiple choice before you decide. So for this one, you could either just write A or B or C as your answer, or you can write your answer for it, whatever the words are associated with it. But just be careful because you don't want to accidentally flip them. So pay very close attention. I'll go slow, but make sure that you pay very close attention as we go through this section. Number 7. Alright, what gland is responsible for your body's flight or fight response? So what gland is responsible for the body's fight or flight response? Is it A, pituitary gland, B, adrenal gland, C, islets of Langerhans, D, pineal gland? So the question again, which gland of your body is responsible for your body's fight or flight response? A, pituitary, B, adrenal gland, C, islets of Langerhans, D, pineal gland. Choose one of those 4. Number 8, what gland serves as the clock to control waking and sleeping? What gland serves as the clock to control waking and sleeping? A, pituitary gland, B, adrenal gland, C, islets of Langerhans, D, pineal gland. So what gland serves as the clock to control waking and sleeping? A, pituitary gland, B, adrenal gland, C, islets of Langerhans, D, pineal gland. Alright, number 9. What gland secretes insulin and glucagon? What gland secretes insulin and glucagon to control the sugar in your blood? Is it A, pituitary gland, B, adrenal gland, C, islets of Langerhans, D, pineal gland? Which gland secretes the hormones insulin and glucagon to control the sugar in your blood? And then last one, number 10, what gland is known as the master gland? Oh, as a side note, I should have said this previously, that just because you use an answer one time doesn't mean you can't use it again. So be sure that you're thinking through all of the answers to see, okay, what does it do, or what hormone does it secrete? So be sure that you're thinking of both things. Just because you used it once doesn't mean that you can't use it again. So number 10, getting back to that, what gland serves as the master gland of your body? So is it A, pituitary gland, B, adrenal gland, C, I lost my spot, C, islets of Langerhans, D, pineal gland? So is it A, pituitary gland, B, adrenal gland, C, islets of Langerhans, and D, pineal gland? Alright, if you need something repeated, be sure to go back and watch that particular section of the quiz, but don't go back too far because you don't want to hit the review. Alright, well, once you finish, go ahead and put that away and off to the side so you can remember to give it to your parents for them to send a picture of it to me today. So you can go ahead and put that off to the side just so that way you won't forget about it. But now you can go ahead and take out your textbook and let's go ahead and let's get into today's lesson. Alright, we are going from studying your major systems of your body. Hopefully you remember that there are 11 systems in the human body, 11 major ones. Let's see how many you can name. Oh, it turned off. Let's see how many you can name. Alright, so if you want to use the chart on page 79, you can, because that chart works better in my opinion than the one on page, it's around page 103. So page 79 has a better chart in my opinion, at least for a lot of your major systems. I need to put post-its in this book, that'll help me. Alright, so thinking back over it, what is the system that transports nutrients and oxygen to and from the cells? Cardiovascular system. What is the system that provides movement for your body? Muscular system. What is the system that provides your body strength and rigidity? Skeletal system. What is the system that brings in oxygen and gives off carbon dioxide? Respiratory system. What is the system that controls long-term effects on the inside of your body? And it controls certain limited body functions, but it uses those glands and hormones. Endocrine system. Good. What is the system that is responsible for the continuation of life? Reproductive system. What is the system that removes waste from your body? Excretory system. What's the system specifically in the excretory system that removes liquid waste? Urinary system. What's the system that fights off bacteria and other pathogens? Immune system. And then what system in particular cleanses your body with that lymph? Lymphatic system. Alright, what is the system? I forgot which ones I've asked so far. Oh, what is the system that is consistent of your skin that is a shield to keep out bacteria? So it's like a shield. Integumentary system. I think I lost track somewhere. Oh, what's the system that breaks down and absorbs nutrients? Digestive system. I'm running out of fingers. Let's see. I've asked that one, I've asked that one, I've asked that one, I've asked that one, I've asked that one. I must have gotten off count somehow. So that should have been 11. So cardiovascular, respiratory, your digestive, your excretory, your immune system, your integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular system. Oh, that's one I skipped. What's the system that coordinates controls activities of your body? Nervous system, endocrine system, and then the reproductive system. So that's the one I skipped, nervous system. So if you want to use the chart page 79 to help you to remember, that's probably a good chart, but you do want to note the 11 major body systems. Remember the urinary system is part of the excretory system, and the lymphatic system is part of the immune system. Alright, so let's get into it. So those are the 11 systems of your body. Remember, your body is defined as a network of systems. So breaking down, we're going down into a smaller category. So instead of talking about your 11 systems, we're breaking down going back to tissues. Now there are only 4 different types of tissue, so that's nice, it's a little bit easier for it. Now remember, tissue makes up an organ, and organs make up a system. You can have some organs that are made up of entirely one type of tissue, like your muscle cells, your muscles in your body, like your biceps, is made up entirely of muscle tissue. But some organs, like your stomach, is made of a couple different types of tissues. It has epithelial and muscular tissue on the inside of it. Alright, so these are the 4 different types of tissues. Alright, I know it looks a little bit weird, so epithelial is how you pronounce this top one, so epithelial. I know it looks like epithelial, it's not how you say it, so don't say it like that. So epithelial, so be careful with that one. The other three are kind of easy. So muscle tissue that's in your muscles, nerve tissue that's in your nerves. Connective, the only one that starts to get a little weird, so just make a note of that one. Connective tissue, that one helps your body stay in place. So that way on the inside, you don't have your organs shifting and moving around on the inside, they stay locked in. And examples of these would be like your tendons and ligaments, which is a side note. Tendons connect what to what? Muscle to bone. So ligaments connect what to what? Bones to bones. Good job. Alright, so just make a note for these 4 tissues. Alright, the first one is the epithelial tissue. So this one forms a protective barrier. So your book points out you can have different types of epithelial tissue in the epidermis of your skin. So epi means on, over, or above. So epidermis is the top layer of your skin. Epithelial in a lot of cases is that top or outermost layer because it's that barrier layer. So it can be found in the epidermis of your skin, the inner lining of your mouth, the mucous membranes of your respiratory, digestive, and reproductive systems. So basically for this one, it's basically just a barrier to help make sure what stays on the inside of your body stays on the inside, and then what is outside of it stays outside. So it's kind of like a fence or a wall to where it forms that barrier. Your book has a picture of epithelial cells from your mouth. You might have scraped the inside of your mouth before by accident and gotten a cut on the inside of your mouth. That's part of the reason why it hurts a little bit, is because that's that barrier, so that way you don't get food and junk on the inside of your body that way. It's not supposed to be that way. That's one reason why you can also develop ulcers or mouth sores. That's part of the reason why you can if you get an infection in that epithelial layer. Alright, so epithelial, just make a note for that tissue. Typically it doesn't have the blood vessels. Its cells have to receive their nutrients by diffusion. Alright, you should remember what diffusion is. What's diffusion? Right, diffusion, remember, is that absorption of molecules. We've kind of talked about this with osmosis more, but remember this is whenever you have the gases are being absorbed from one area into the other. So diffusion is how they get their oxygen and their nutrients. So it's in your mouth, we have it in your epidermis, in your mouth, and mucous membranes, like your nose. Basically, anything that's exposed to the outside of your body probably has an epithelial layer on the inside of it to help protect it. Alright, so diffusion is how it gets its nutrients. So that's the first layer. Alright, the second layer is second type of tissue is the muscular layer. This one provides motion. That makes sense. There are 3 different types of muscle tissue, though. You have skeletal muscle tissue, you have smooth muscle tissue, and then you have cardiac muscle tissue. Alright, this is called cardiac, or it has that root cardio. What type of muscle is this, what type of organ is this probably found in? Right, your heart. So this one is specifically in your heart. Now you'll notice that skeletal muscle is striated or has a stripe pattern. Your book has some pictures of it just showing you skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle tissue. You notice they all kind of look similar, but you can see that the skeletal muscle, it has these distinct, it looks like bands next to each other. That's the striated or the striped look before it. So that's part of the reason why skeletal muscles, like in your arms and in your legs, you can think about these and you can move these by your conscious thought. So that way you can move and walk around. Your involuntary muscles have a little bit of different tissue. Remember, if they're involuntary, do you have to think about them for them to move? No, you don't. So these are involuntary. They're going to move or contract whether or not you want them to. These are on the inside of a lot of your organs. So your book points out smooth muscle controls the diameter of your blood vessels, propels food along your digestive tract, adjusts the size of pupils in your eyes. A lot of your involuntary muscles, like your digestive system, will automatically use it and will automatically contract with that muscle contraction. Remember, what do we call the contraction of food? Like you lay down your esophagus or through your small intestine? Peristalsis. So because it's pushing it along, that's involuntary. It's going to do it whether or not you want it to. So this is an example of smooth muscle tissue. Cardiac muscle tissue is also involuntary. Your heart pumps whether or not you want it to. And because it's used over and over and over again, it needs that striated design as well. So that way it's extra sturdy and extra strong. So cardiac muscle tissue, it's involuntary, but it's also striated as well for it. Alright, I believe that is it for your muscle tissue. So don't forget this muscle tissue is on the inside of your muscles, but they're also in a couple of other places in your body, like in your intestines and in your heart. So make a note, smooth muscle, that's involuntary muscle contraction. Heart has the cardiac muscle. It's involuntary, but it's also striated, or it has that striped pattern for it underneath the microscope. While skeletal muscle, because it's voluntary, is just striated. Alright. Connective tissue. This links parts of your body together. Alright, so your book points out there are many different types of connective tissue. You can conclude bone, cartilage, adipose tissue, blood, dense connective tissue, loose connective tissue. There are several different types for it. So thinking it through, there's a lot of terms there that you should know. Alright, so cartilage, you should recognize that. What is cartilage? Alright, that's the membrane, remember, to keep your bones from grinding against each other and to build up that friction. So that's what cartilage is. Adipose tissue. We've talked about this. Where's adipose tissue? It's in the fat cells. It's the fat cells of skin, so it's the fat cells. We already talked about blood, obviously, dense connective tissue and loose connective tissue. Alright, so your book points out the two different types on the next page. Dense connective tissue, that's like your tendons and ligaments. So they're extra sturdy and extra strong. They're dense or thick to help lock your body together. So tendons and ligaments. So tendons connect what to what? You should know this by this point. Muscle to bone. If it's a ligament, what's it connecting? Bones to bones. So make sure you know that. So it helps link your body together. Loose connective tissue is found below most epithelial layers. It helps to kind of provide that kind of elastic sturdiness. So your skin can move around a little bit on your body. You'll notice, okay, you can pull it up a little bit and it can move and shift around. But your skin should not be so stretchy that you can pull it really far off. So you need that loose connective tissue to provide a little bit of elasticity. So that way, okay, yeah, your skin can move around, but you don't want it to move too far. So that's what loose connective tissue in a lot of cases for. It helps your body to be able to have a little bit of elasticity for it. Let's see, your book talks more about this a little bit further on, so we'll kind of come back to this. So nerves, these are part of the nervous system. So remember there are two parts to the nervous system, what are they? Central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Alright, they also send impulses. What do we call, or what is the impulses? What does that mean? So the electrical messages, good job. These also control other parts of your body. So, like how your brain controls a lot of your body, and the brain controls conscious thought and memory, and then there's three parts of the brain. What are the three parts of the brain? Right, the three parts of the brain are cerebrum, that's conscious thought and memory, cerebellum, balance and skeletal muscle coordination, and the third one, brainstem. Good job. So make sure you're thinking through all of this. Alright, so nerve tissue, your body uses, this is on the inside of your brain, spinal cord, and nerves. So primarily this is just in your nervous system. You do have those sensory receptors in your skin, but primarily it's just in your nervous system. It sends impulses and it coordinates and controls your body. Alright, so your book points out how all of these different types of tissues work together to keep your systems working in the proper area for it. So your book points out because of the different job, shape, and arrangement, each tissue is important in their location. This is part of the reason why you have the connective tissue. Wrong direction. I cannot remember which direction to go with this mouse. With the connective tissue, this is part of the reason why your skin has resilience. Your book gives you that term about on page 106. So resilience, this is why you have flexibility, strength, and resilience with your skin to the underlying muscle. That's why you have to have that loose connective tissue. So while we think tendons and ligaments are important to connect bones or muscles together, you still need that loose connective tissue, because otherwise, if you got your skin stretched or pulled, it would just tear and break. So the ability for your skin to have that elasticity or resilience is important. It's one reason why, if someone has ever done an Indian burn to your arm, which hurts by the way, that's part of the reason why they can do it and your skin doesn't shatter. Now your skin might get that burn or that irritation, but your skin won't shatter because of it. So that's how come you have that loose connective tissue, so that way it helps give your skin a little bit more stretchiness or resilience to it. So make a note though, at the top of page 106, each different type of tissue has its own specific structure enabling to perform its particular job perfectly. Just pointing out, you need all of your systems, all of your organs, and now you need all of your tissue. So thinking back over though, because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, what are the four types of tissue? Epithelial, muscle, nerve, and you can cheat with connective, so make sure you note those four. There are three types of muscle tissue. What are they? The skeletal muscle, you have the involuntary muscle, smooth muscle, I forgot how your book terms that one. So skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and then cardiac muscle. Make sure you note those three. Alright, the last thing your book gets into in this section are the cells. We've talked about cells previously, so make sure that you go ahead and remark them though. Cells are the smallest part of your body that can said to be alive. Scientists know there's actually smaller parts on the inside of the cell. We'll talk about this later on in the year. How your cell's kind of like a little bit miniature factory. But that's the reason why we say if it's a living unit, a living thing, the cell is as small as we can go. We can't get any smaller than that and still say it's alive. Now it has pieces on the inside, but it's not alive at that point. So there are many different types of cells. Each type of cell is designed to perform a specific task. You need all of your cells in your body. All of them are important. I like this diagram because it shows you a lot of the different types of cells. And cells are very unique because they're not just circles. A lot of times we associate just a circle look to a cell. They have all different types of structures. They have all different types of shapes. So you have your egg cell, your sperm cells. Now remember, what do? Egg cell is the what? So put it this way. Alright, what gonad makes the egg cells? Ovaries. What gonad makes the sperm cells? Testes. Good. So remember, these are your reproductive cells. Your nerve cells, it gathers information about it and then sends those electrical messages or those impulses. So make sure that you connect your terms. Red blood cells. Now remember, what do red blood cells do specifically? Transport oxygen. Good. Your skin cells, so they form that protective barrier. So remember, what system are your skin cells part of? Integumentary system. Alright, your bone cells. So your bone cells are these are the cells on the inside of your bones. So what system is that? Skeletal system. White blood cell. What system is that part of? Immune system. Cartilage cells. So these are at your joints. So what system is that part of? Skeletal system. Fat cells. So that's the bottom layer of your skin with the subcutaneous layer. So what system is that? Integumentary system. Good. And then muscle cells. These are part of the what? Muscular system. Probably this one might be skeletal muscle. It's kind of hard to tell if how you both drew it. But yeah, so all of these cells have different shapes and different looks. Now, the artists color them different colors to make them stand out a little bit different. But your book's just pointing out, and this art's pointing out that they have different shapes and different designs, but you need every single one of these cells. If too many of one type of cell dies, you can die as a person. Now, if you have like a sunburn where some of your cells on your skin dies, alright, you're not going to die. But if you get sunburned all over, you could get what's called sun poisoning. If you've ever had that, you know that it's really painful and it makes you really sick. You're not going to die, but you feel really, really sick from it. So that's probably the reason why you want to protect these cells. Now, some cells will cause immediate death if they die. Like if the cells of your heart die, okay, now you're going to die because your heart is dead. So your book points out every cell in the body is important. You need them all. You need them all to be working correctly. But some cells, if they die, will cause more immediate death or a faster death than others. So like how the Bible says that every part of your body is important, kind of think of it, and he was relating it to the church, saying that every Christian in a church of believers is important. Same idea, is that all of your cells and your whole body is important, and you need them all, and they all need to be working properly. Alright, so today's a little bit shorter because I know you spent some time studying for the quiz, so because of that, we're going to leave it just a little bit shorter today. Your book has the chart on page 108. You don't have to note the chart specifically, but do note what epithelial tissue is, do note the muscle tissue, the 3 different types of muscle tissue, note nerve tissue, and then do note that connective tissue links your body together. You don't have to note specifically which types is which, but you should know things like tendons and ligaments. You need to know those really, really, really well. Alright, your homework for tonight. Read pages 109 through 114. Answer on page 109, the thought provoker 1 and 2. So on page 109, thought provoker 1 and 2. And on page 114, the section 3.5 review, not the chapter review. So the section review 3.5, questions 1 and 2. Alright, so all of it all over again. Read pages 109 to 114. Answer on page 109, the thought provoker 1 and 2. And on page 114, the section 3.5, the questions 1 and 2. Don't forget, the final draft of your background paper is not this Monday, but the next Monday, so October 12th.